Hello, folks. Welcome back to our channel. And today I'm going to be reviewing another episode of Medium. And today I'm going to be reviewing the 19th episode of the second season called Knowing Her. Knowing Her, indeed. The episode was directed by David Paymer and written by Glenn Gordon Caron, who's the creator of the show. The episode was aired on April 24th, 2006. Wow, this episode is definitely one of my favorites from the whole show. I really loved it. And in this episode, basically, Allison is going to have some really strange dreams involving Detective Lee Scanlon. And basically, the episode begins during his wedding, basically. And what happens is that basically everybody's waiting for him. You got everybody suited up for the occasion. The wedding is about to go underway, but Lee Scanlon is nowhere to be found. So basically, you got the best man, you got all the people who have been called to witness the wedding, I guess. And basically, they decide to go looking for him. And what happens is that he appears to be delirious. He's in the bathroom, and it sounds like he's been doing drugs, right? Because he's laughing, and he sounds really odd. Like, he sounds, kind of off. He sounds delirious. So basically, Allison wakes up, and she can't really believe what's happening, and she decides to confront Lee about it, and he pretty much dismisses it as some crazy dream. But then as the episode goes on, we find out that Lee might have had he might have had a tough past in which he basically dealt with drugs, as something might suggest it, but I'm not gonna spoil the episode because I don't wanna, ruin the experience for you. But basically, it might not be such a crazy dream after all, since after a while we're gonna find out that Lee might have really had something to do with drugs. A few months, like a couple of years prior to this episode, a couple of years prior to 2006. So basically, there's gonna be a woman who's gonna resurface, I guess, and that woman seems to she seems to be involved with Lee Scanlon. And what happens is that this the whole Lee Scanlon's kind of plot-centered storyline is going to be basically tying up with some dead drug mules who are going to be found, at some point in this episode. And it seems that, both cases, Lee Scanlon's past and with drugs and this woman and these dead drug mules, there seems to be a connection, right? Meanwhile, Ariel is basically going to be working. She's going to be working on an essay for some kind of a presentation, and whoever wins basically will have to, I don't recall, but they'll have to go to the Capitol or something like that, and basically give a speech there, if I'm not mistaken. But as Ariel does hers, she doesn't think much of it. But then she finds out that another boy in her class, I believe his name should be somewhere here. Let me find it. Yeah, Terrence Buck's presentation was awesome. She believes it was awesome, and he did much better than her. Since he's been preparing for a long time, he had a lot of cards. he was carrying around to help him along this presentation, whereas Ariel just started working the night before, so she doesn't think much of it. So she pretty much believes that Terrence is gonna win. But later on, lo and behold, it appears that this isn't exactly how it's gonna go. And I'll leave you with that because I don't want to spoil the episode in any shape or form. So, what is this episode about? What did I like about? What did I think about it overall? Like I said, this episode was awesome, and since it was written by the creator of the show, it makes sense that this episode was as great, as awesome, as excellent as it was. Definitely one of my favorite episodes. I'm gonna give it a very high rating. I loved it so much, especially since it in this episode gives a lot of insight into the character of Lee Scanlon, who is one of my favorite characters. And you really get to know him before he became a detective, and his past. Basically, his past is going to be pretty much brought to the surface in this episode. You're going to find out what Lee was doing before and what made him, what got him to become a detective, and his past life, and this woman. But yeah, this episode was so good. I really loved it so much, especially since this episode was pretty gruesome, as a lot of those drug mules who were found dead. A lot of those drug mules were basically missing their eyes. So whoever killed them basically gouged out their eyes. They gouged out their eyes. So it's pretty gruesome indeed. So this episode was pretty scary and terrifying, actually. Creepy beyond words. Really, this episode is one of my favorites, one of the scariest, one of the creepiest, one of the most terrifying episodes in the whole show. Man, I really love this episode. And especially since Lee's past is basically brought back to the surface. It's being brought back to the surface. And you're really gonna find out what he was doing before in his past life and everything. Man, that was so smooth. I really loved this episode so much. And yeah, that's basically it. Then you have a final twist that was pretty great too. And there's a very scary scene involving eyes. And then the district attorney. One of the last scenes at night is pretty awesome in my opinion, especially when you have Lee Scanlon basically confronting this person. Those of you who have watched it know what I'm talking about, but man, this whole confrontation scene, combined with Allison's dream, and the fact that Lee's life is in jeopardy, he's in peril, he might not make it, I find it so good. And I'll let you find out for yourselves whether he made it or not. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he's gonna die in this episode. You know, crazy things happen in the show. But yeah, this episode was so awesome. I so loved it, man. It's definitely one of my favorite episodes. And I'm gonna move on to the main actors in a moment. But man, this episode was so awesome. I don't really know what more I could say about it. But this whole investigation, the drug mules, Lee Scanlon's past, and the fact that we might not know everything there is to know about him, that he made some mistakes in his past like everyone else, like anybody else would have. I found that to be really refreshing, and a great thing that in this show, they don't try to make the characters look like perfect people, have no past, no secret past, no that they didn't do anything bad. No, in this show, really, you get to see the characters for who they really are. And it's a breath of fresh air, really. And I so loved it. Yeah, that was pretty awesome, in my opinion. So, without further ado, let's move on to the characters. So basically, we have Luna Lauren Velas, who plays Elena Cabrera. Awesome character, one of the main characters in this episode. Definitely, the actress did a pretty awesome job. Then we have Matt Winston, who's Mr. Cathcart, who's basically the teacher, Mr. Cathcart. And at some point, there's a pretty funny scene, but also kind of mean, kind of bittersweet scenes, you might say, kind of mean in a way, but at the same time a little funny. I like that too. Then we have Holliston Coleman as Hannah, who's Ariel's friend, best friend. Ariel's best friend. Tina D. Joseph as Linda Novi. Tom Everett as sponsor. Jeff Corbett as 2005. All right. Then we have J. Hugh Lee as Lieutenant Larry Green. Yeah, I really love this actor, J. Hugh Lee. Colin Axford, Guthrie, who plays Terrence Buck. Great actor. Michael Clark as a detective. Miranda Carabillo as Murray. Alejandro Patino as the driver. And then we have Dana Schick as librarian. Dana Schick as a librarian. So all these characters were pretty awesome, but my favorite ones were definitely Luna Lauren Vallis as Elena Cabrera, J. Hugh Lee as Lieutenant Larry Green, and last but not least, Mr. Cathcart, who's played by Matt Winston. So these characters were pretty awesome, but yeah, this whole plot was very good, and definitely a very Scanlan-centered, oriented episode. And I really love this episode so much. So if I were to give this episode a rating, I would give it 9.5 out of 10. Heck, you know what? I'll give it a 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 for this episode. 10 out of 10. Really loved it. Especially since there's a scene in which basically it's pretty scary and terrifying near the end. And then it's kind of funny too with Joe around who's like, "What are you doing? Who could you be calling at this hour? Now? It's 3 in the morning, Al." That was pretty funny in my opinion. This whole episode was kind of scary. It keeps us at the edge of our toes. But at the same time it was kind of scary. Like, it's scary, terrifying, suspenseful, mysterious. But there's some humor in this episode, especially with Ariel and her class. Subplot, side story, whatever you're gonna call it, with Terrence. I thought that was pretty awesome, and the teacher, Mr. Cathcart. But yeah, this episode was awesome, so I'll give it a 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 for this episode, really awesome. And I think that's pretty much it for this episode, really. 10 out of 10 for this episode. 10 out of 10. Am I making myself completely 100% clear? Completely clear? 10 out of 10 for this episode. Loved it. What about you folks? And there's a fighting scene near the end I've really enjoyed. But I'll let you find out for yourselves what it is about. What about you folks? And we get to see Lee's apartment. Right. Lee's apartment in this episode. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching, folks. What did you think about this episode? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comment section down below. I would really love to hear about your thoughts and views on this episode. And in the meantime, folks, stay safe. Goodbye. Take care. I'll see you on the next review very soon, God willing, for another episode. In the meantime, stay safe. Goodbye. Take care. This whole channel for you signing off.